When you look at the world, do you believe that you see it for what's really there? Or are you looking through a lens colored by things you've been told are true? In this episode, we're going to describe and discuss the idea of self-fulfilling prophecy. That thing that most of us could put on someone else and accuse them of, but would be very difficult to turn around, look in the mirror, and believe that we might be guilty. We're going to look at relationships, race, and religion. Oh yeah, we're going there, Earthlings. Get ready. Off Topic with Matthew East is back.
So am I, motherfuckers.
Buckle your seatbelts. Here we go. Earthlings, welcome back. I'm Matthew East. We're Off Topic. Just realized I said welcome back, like we're on a commercial break or something. You guys skipping ahead 30 seconds. If you had to skip ahead to cover the time that's passed since I was last sitting here talking to you, that'd be one hell of a tool.
Tool? Try a heavily modified DeLorean.
Some time has gone by. It's been actually years, not so much seconds or minutes. And that's not without its excuses. Been through some stuff. A couple years back, my wife and I divorced. Don't cry for us. It's an ugly thing. Nobody wants to do it. We're now part of the other 50%, I guess. I'm not proud of it. What I am proud of, though, is the way that we managed to do it. A lot of that credit goes to her, but we worked together to try and save everything, and it didn't work out for us. Now we're doing our best to co-parent our young adult kids and live our lives separately, and, things were working out in a lot of ways not between us, and therefore we are not anymore. And that is that. Not going to dwell on it, not going to cry about it, not going to ask for your sympathy for it either, or your excuses. Excusals. One of those things. We're moving on. Captain Upgrade happened for me at work. I got back to work after a good stretch of time during which we were able to try to save the marriage, all that kind of stuff. But we got back, and then we moved from the right seat over to the left seat, added a stripe to the shoulder, my airline, and that took a little bit of time and energy as well. Distracting.
You want to talk about distracting? The superimposed photo of the monkey suit's pretty distracting.
Didn't give me enough time to think even the teeniest bit about doing this, talking to you guys. But here we are. All that's done, and we're in a new studio. That's awesome. It's because we had to move. One of those pesky side effects of divorce. But really happy here. It's a great studio. It's actually my office. I'll talk a little bit about that here in just a minute. We got a little ambiance. We got the painting back there, the vase. Those two things are from Japan. Pretty sweet. Got the clock. Pretty sure that's from Walmart.
And an antler from, well, an elk.
I think it says 11:56. It's actually 10:37. I think I reset it about a week ago. It keeps horrible time. But it looks kind of quaint, iffy, neat. I don't know. Better than nothing back there. It ticks really loud. So if the mics pick that up, I apologize. I can't hear it with the headphones on. I can hear it with the headphones off, but mine are on, and I don't know. Maybe that means I'll be able to focus on this, but if the clock is annoying, maybe we'll get rid of it. For now, there it sits.
Going tick, tock, tick, tock, tick, tock, tick, tock, tick, tock, tick, tock, tock, tick. Is this getting funnier? Tock, tick.
The curtains over here, the curtains block some windows. The issue regarding the windows is not that they're not really cool. They are. I spent some money on them. They're kind of semi-soundproof. They're semi-soundproof because actual soundproof is really fucking expensive, and I can't afford that. But on the other side of the windows is what I call the vista. It's my front porch. It's a vista because it sits about 8 feet above the road, thank God, because the road's kind of busy. It's a 2-lane road, one way, though. Goes in the same direction. There's a stoplight over there. You think cars treat that light like a drag race signal or something, the way it sounds out there every once in a while.
Ah, the civilian drag race. That noble sport where people from boring walks of life pretend it matters who jets off the starting line and arrives first at the next fucking stoplight.
Good news is I don't live up here in this room. I live back there. It really doesn't bother me at all, but when we're up here recording, we'll see if it's an issue. I like the view. You look over, you got the Veterans Memorial Park over here. You got the field over there. Right in between those two things, you got an old house and an auto junkyard. But we just focus on the Veterans Memorial Park and the field. And try not to focus on the cars, which is hard, because sometimes they're really loud. Trucks go by, they're supposed to be loud. Motorcycles go by, they're 50-50, right? I love the ones with the radios that like are on speaker that's designed to like, I don't know, share the music with the entire city. I don't know why anybody thinks that's cool. Why do people think noises in general, loud fucking noises, are cool? Let's talk about the cars that aren't supposed to be loud. The guys that put the mufflers on them, make them sound like a giant fucking kazoo. I don't know, does that impress women? Ladies, what do you say? What do you think? Chivalry, humor? No, the loud ass fucking kazoo car. That's what they want. But these things drive by the front of the house, and hopefully they won't bother the podcast too much. Anywho, the location's awesome. I'm happy to be here. And I think that it's all going to go fantastic. And that, Earthlings, is a segue. Optimism is a beautiful thing. Let me ask you a question. Here comes the metaphor. Is this glass half full or half empty? The way that you look at the world. Are you an optimist or a pessimist? It matters. I'm not saying one's better than the other. Well, yes, I am. Optimism's way better. But we do tend to have a bent one way or the other with that stuff. And the reason that that's important is because we're going to talk about something today that I call self-fulfilling prophecy. Actually, I don't call it that. A lot of people call it that. I call this episode self-fulfilling prophecy, though, because that's what we're going to talk about. Self-fulfilling prophecy is an easy idea to grasp. We can all kind of think in terms of the fact that people out there are looking at situations, circumstances, things that happen to them through their own lens. Maybe they're starting to see a little bit of what they expect. Let me tell you something about truth, by the way. There's this thing going around right now. It's like a virus. It's called My Truth. I got news for you, Earthlings. There is the truth, and then there is other shit. And that other shit's impressions, your thoughts on things, your feelings about things. You don't have a truth. You have an opinion, okay? The truth is the truth. Now, that said, truth isn't always the most important thing. Opinions do matter. Just don't call it my truth. That's obnoxious.
My truth is that women like my voice, and that it does not sound like a gigantic bass kazoo.
I changed my own thoughts about truth, though, and people's opinions and things like that a while back. I was a young adult when I was just basically looking at the world going, I know who I am. And if you think you know who I am based on a certain slice of me that you've experienced, and you're wrong, fuck right off. Well, that seems to make sense, except that people's perceptions actually tend to have an impact on how they treat you, tend to have an impact on how you perceive their treatment of you, tend to have an impact on all kinds of things. I actually got a job in the military back when I went from what we call the Big Blue Air Force over into a special access program, where I did some stuff where people's perceptions were very, very important. In fact, if they perceived what was actually true about who I was and why I was there, I might get dead. And nobody wants to get dead.
Getting dead is like the worst thing you could ever get. It's like getting fucked, except maybe worse, like getting totally fucked. Unless getting fucked actually meant getting actually fucked, which would be like getting actually laid, in which case I'd really want to be totally laid, which would be totally awesome, which is kind of like the opposite of getting dead, but still don't want to get dead, I don't think.
So you got to make them think other things. And self-fulfilling prophecy worked really well because we could make them think that maybe we were someone who was supposed to be there if we weren't supposed to be there. We could make them think we were doing something that was supposed to be done when we were doing something that wasn't supposed to be done. Those types of things kept us alive, I don't know, healthy, on our way back to the hotel at the end of the night to throw one down, 2, 3, I don't know. This isn't an accounting lesson. But I learned that perception is important, and I used to self-fulfilling prophecy in other people to my advantage, because if they expected a certain thing and that's what I showed them, then that's the way they treated me, and that worked out really well for everybody. But I've seen it used against me as well. You know, people have perceptions of me based on things that either I've done before or things that they think. I've seen other people do before, stuff like that, and then that has impacted how I've been treated. That isn't always awesome.
Can we at least agree that getting fucked is awesome, though? I mean, getting laid, which is not getting dead or fucked, except that it is, but it's awesome. Fuck!
Sometimes you have to take accountability for other people's self-fulfilling prophecy. You got to admit that things you've done in the past might impact what they think now, whether it's true or not. And if it's not, you might say, well, that's not fair. But it is if you created the original problem that causes them to think the things that they think now. So self-fulfilling prophecy there is one of those gotchas, I guess. Like, sorry, man, I guess you're thinking what you're thinking because I may have made you think that.
Still sucks, which is kind of ironic because sucking is part of fucking. Well, not the bad fucking, the good fucking, the laid, fucking sex, not dead. God damn it, can somebody change the fucking subject? See what I did there?
We're going to talk about self-fulfilling prophecy, though, in 3 different realms. I just made them up. They're pretty pertinent. I'm going to see if I can offend you by talking about relationships, religion, and race. We'll just go in escalating offense order. How's that sound? No, I don't want to offend anybody. But I do want to talk about these things, and some of you might get offended. Now, let's not forget what offense is. That's a feeling inside you that you decide to have. So I'm not going to take responsibility for it. But hopefully, you'll have to listen to what I have to say, and it won't necessarily offend you at all. It'll make you think. That's what we're here to do. Well, laugh, think, whatever. But relationships, pretty benign compared to the other 2 topics, so we'll start there. If you've been on 4 bad first dates, what are you looking for in the 5th one? You're looking for what's going to go wrong. That, and then you see something, Oh, he picked his nose. You might have missed it. He's really funny.
Huh. What's not funny about a good old-fashioned pinky-burying, nostril-scraping nose pick?
Self-fulfilling prophecy might have hurt you. You might have looked for that thing, and you might have missed out on something really, really great. There are defense mechanisms that are good, though, if you've been hurt before, and you got your guard up. Somebody who seems really nice, you might notice the tiniest little things. And that might actually help you out.
For example, date number 6 goes great, so you bring her back to your place. But while you're in the kitchen getting drinks, you catch her out of the corner of your eye throwing your dog off the couch. Probably not her first bossy moment.
But it might also cost you something good if you go the wrong direction. So pay attention to it. Just know that it's real. Cool thing about relationships is you can fix most of this shit by doing one special tool that I like to call talking. Talking's awesome. It eliminates the need for prophecy. Clear communication eliminates the need for guesswork, is another way to say that. And I was recently talking about that with my friend Laura, flight attendant who I'm getting to know just a little bit. By the way, she's a YouTuber. She's going to be on this podcast at some point. This or the other one, odd man in or off topic. But Laura deserves some credit. Hi, Laura, for motivating me to get back behind this microphone. She's kind of the one who kind of said, start talking, don't worry so much about the product or making it amazing or making it awesome. Take the time you have and put something out there, see what happens. She's monetizing some YouTube shit. She's probably way more entertaining than me. No, she's prettier.
Never too late to invest in a kazoo muffler.
But the point is to get up and do. Fulfill your own prophecy. Fulfill your own destiny. But I was talking to her about communication. I digress. Because she's been in a relationship that wasn't going her way. And just talking about the idea that you can eliminate the guesswork by getting with the person that you're hoping will understand you a little better and say those things that they don't understand in a way that they can understand.
But maybe without such a jerky voice.
It's not super cosmic. But relationships can really, really, truly be influenced in probably most of the time a bad way by self-fulfilling prophecy, by negative expectations. And if you can fight against that, you might find something good where you didn't expect it.
Like a tattoo on the inner thigh.
Or where you wouldn't have found it if you'd been distracted.
Like a tattoo on the inner thigh.
Looking for things that aren't there. Speaking of looking for things that aren't there, let's jump into... Which one do we want to do next? Race or religion? They both kind of, that's what self-fulfilling prophecy is. Let's get into the rough one. Race. Religion's more personal. Race is more like, ubiquitous right now. I'm frustrated with our country, Earthlings. I'm not going to lie to you. I remember the 90s. Don't do the math. But I do remember the 90s. Race was rarely discussed, and that wasn't bad. It wasn't that we didn't have interracial stuff going on. Friendships, sports teams, co-workers, lovers. It was all happening. We just didn't give a shit. And it was awesome. I understand you got to talk about racism when it's real. And I understand that it's real sometimes. But when you're talking about it all the fucking time, then you start to see it when it's not there.
Like Bloody Mary in the bathroom mirror. No kidding, though. That shit's real.
And that is a problem. That hurts minorities. It hurts everybody, especially minorities, though, I think. I really don't know why we started talking about it. Well, I kind of have thoughts on it, but we're not going to talk about that in this episode because it's not the topic. That'd be like off topic. That'd be like double off topic, and that's a whole different title.
If he is off topic, does that make me off topic? Let's ponder that for a good long while. Hey, look, a butterfly.
We're going to talk about, though, just what the expectation bias does to us. You know, if you're being told every time you turn on the television, every time you listen to a political leader or a church leader or any leader, for that matter, that race is this big deal, then if you're a minority, you're going to think that way. How can you fucking help it? And then when you're thinking that way, you're going to see it. And it's not that it's not there to be seen in isolated instances, and those should be stomped out and eradicated, don't get me wrong. But it's that you might see it when it's not there.
Like the potential to reunite with your long-lost love. Or also, a Sasquatch.
Ultimate white privilege of all time, being able to identify an asshole. That didn't come from me. It came from Adam Carolla. Go listen to his podcast, too. He's the godfather of podcasting. I don't need to tell you that. Everybody's listening to his podcast. And he kind of says, my white privilege is that I can identify an asshole. Because if someone's an asshole to me, I don't have to worry about why.
Hint for the underexposed. Adam Carolla is a very, very, very white guy.
If you're a minority and you're being told there's racism everywhere, then you got to worry about why, right? I think it's funny. But that's the thing with race. I've got a dear friend who's African-American. We talk about all kinds of philosophical things all the time. We were talking about this one time, and this happened, used with her permission, by the way. She basically, in answer to my question, have you experienced racism recently, or do you know about, racist incidents that have happened, recently? Was very quick to say yes, told me a story of a thing that happened that was really shitty. Friend of hers, I might have been a friend of a friend, but was in an Uber with African-American driver, and she's African-American, and truck 2 or 3 white guys pull up, and they start yelling some obscenities and saying some nasty shit to them. I think maybe a beer bottle was thrown. It was super scary. That's fucking horrible. Catch is that the story is about 6 years old. This conversation happened a couple months ago. Think about that for a second, Earthlings. Okay? I asked my friend for an example, and she was like, yep, I know of one. It wasn't her. It was a friend of hers, and it wasn't recently. It was 6 years old. Now, don't be the jackass that says racism's happened in the last 6 years. Of course it has. I'm saying in the situation I'm talking about, this is how it happened. We're going from a macro level. We're looking at things. We're talking about a conversation. And my point is that if the world is telling my friend and every African-American out there that racism is a massive thing and that they're hated and that there's major problems and major reasons to be afraid, you're going to find those things. And then when they do happen, even if they don't happen for a long time, you're going to hang on to them when you find them, and you're going to hang on to those feelings. And that's not fair to you. Makes me angry. Racism, when it exists, should be stomped. And we've done a pretty good job of that, though, in this country. If you look historically, how many thousands of years of recorded history we have, this country has been around for a couple hundred. We started horribly, right? Kind of just rooted in slavery and the worst kinds of racism. Point number one is that slavery's existed from the beginning of time and that we weren't different back then. Doesn't make it right. It's just as horrible, but it was all over the place. As a country, it took us a couple hundred years to evolve all the way to where we are today. And that is record time. So whatever problems we still have, let's not ignore them. Let's acknowledge that they're there, and let's fucking fix them.
Like a wax strip to that pesky back hair. Or wherever else you dare pursue the smooth.
But let's not, ignore the fact that we've done pretty well, too. I don't know. Argue with me if you think that's wrong, but I don't know. Time is time. 1776 to now, and things happened before we were a country, and you add a few hundred years. That's fractional compared to the thousands and thousands of years of history that this stuff has been going on, where it hasn't been fixed all over the place. So, yay, America. But fix more. Keep it going. Let's do it. But let's not do the whole self-fulfilling prophecy thing where we look around and we see asshole and we think racist when actually it's just an asshole. Religion, topic number 3. No segue. Probably the most commonly associated with prophecy, because every sect of religion on the planet has its own version of prophets.
Even the wackos, wackos, from anywhere.
We'll get there in a minute. I'm going to confess something, though. This is a re-recording of this section. First time through, I got a little soapboxy.
For you non-history buffs, the soapbox was a kind of platform you used to have to find to stand on if you wanted to be heard saying something. If only that were still true.
Here and there. Got a little off topic, if you will. Why is that not okay? That's the title of the podcast. I'll tell you why, because that's not why the podcast is titled Off Topic. Little promo for the other podcast. It's called Odd Man In. Odd Man In is my first brainchild for this. It's why I'm doing this at all. And Odd Man In is about stories of normal people experiencing breakthrough in their lives, allowing them to achieve things they never dreamed possible, or that they always dreamed of achieving, but that they didn't know how. It's a cool subject, cool idea. The thing about Odd Man In is that it requires guests and it requires interviews. And since we're working on that listening audience thing and the guest call-ins, we're starting with Off Topic and we're going to promote it with these little segues.
This highly strategic promotional placement follows accusing you of making up some of your race shit and precedes accusing you of making up some of your God shit. Brilliant, Mr. East.
That's why this podcast is called Off Topic, because there are things to talk about that don't have to do with Odd Man In, and I want to talk about them. Go back and look for the first 3 episodes of that podcast. It's actually pretty cool. I tell a pretty great story about my own life. Just giving an example of the kinds of things we want to hear about on that podcast. But I do not have permission from myself to get as far off topic as I did in the first recording when we did this a couple days ago. So I'm here trying my best to fake it. I'm wearing the same shirt. I got the same candle lit. We got the same background. Got the same clock back there. But the time has changed. Now it's still fucked up because the clock is fucked up. You can't unfuck a fucked up clock.
It's actually really hard to unfuck almost anything that's been fucked. Or fucked up, when you think about it.
But here we are, same environment, trying to stay on topic with the off-topic theme of self-fulfilling prophecy. And we're finishing with religion, just like we promised. Earthlings, religion is the easiest one to talk about, to be honest, because what sect of religion doesn't have its own version of prophets, leaders, whose job it is to tell the masses what it is that God has to say?
After all, not everybody can get super awesome at listening to that second voice inside their head.
And then the masses who want to believe so bad, regardless of which religion you're talking about, that they see the things that they're told they're going to see. They're looking for truth.
Like the morning after a great night.
They're told what truth is.
By the friends who had a little less fun.
And then they see it.
And that is called making a memory.
Well, it can't all be right, can it? Or maybe it can be right in part, but definitely over time, when things get blurry and the message gets hazy, then somebody comes through to clarify it, and it comes out a little different than it started before it got blurry in the first place.
And that is called embellishing a memory.
And things evolve in the wrong direction. I mean, just look at, I'm a Christian. Look at medieval Catholicism in the evolution of the faith that I claim as my own. Leadership was telling the masses that God wanted their money to get his love and indulgences to pay for sins, and made to feel guilty and afraid of a God that probably didn't intend that for them, right?
Grab a freaking Lee.
We fixed all that, of course. Go Martin Luther. But it's an example of what human beings can do with just about anything they're presented with that is good. And that is find a way to fuck it up. Look at most movie sequels. You know, got a few exceptions out there. The Avengers, maybe they actually know the real God. Maybe his name is Iron Man. I'm kidding.
Or is he? I am Iron Man. Goosebumps!
But I've had to acknowledge, even in the steadfastness of my own faith, that maybe I've misunderstood some things about God. You know, I went through a season recently where everybody around me was telling me I was less than I believed I was. Different reasons. Now, don't just jump to my divorce. It's not about that. It's much, much bigger than that. I've had issues at work that I've had to overcome. Not at work, but related to work. The marriage thing was its own thing, but I lived that season of my life alone and believing that I was a good person. And I asked God to tell me otherwise if I was wrong. I begged him, in fact, for pain or hardship or anything that would turn me away from where my head was and where my heart was back toward him if I was not. And I got silence during that time. What do you do with that? You believe in yourself, you wake up, you make the best decisions you can make.
Like saying no to that second family-size bag of nacho cheese Doritos during that South Park binge.
You be the best man you can be. I worked very, very hard for a very long stretch of time with my now ex to try to save our marriage. Worked very hard on the professional side as well. And you know what happened after waking up every morning, hearing nothing from the God that I believed in, and believing in myself and making the best choices I could make and being the best man I could be? I ended up in a pretty dang good place.
With a painting and a vase and a shitty clock. An antler. Or maybe that's not what he's talking about.
Well, that forced me to ask some questions. You know, what if the God I've been taught to believe in and understand is a little different than I've thought in the past? What if I need to change some of my views? Well, if that's true of me, and if it can be true of me, surely it can be true of you if you're listening to this. Is there something about God that you have believed in so badly, that you've looked for, that maybe you kind of squinted your eyes to see it the way that you were told you were going to see it? I've seen it happen. I mean, I was leadership in a church for a couple of years, and I watched it go on around me. I saw it, felt good to be a part of something, and I thought I knew what I was seeing, but I didn't want to say much at the time. Well, it turns out it was really, really messed up. Some bad things happened there after I had long since moved on. Well, does that make God bad? No. It makes the human side, the side that is invariably going to make mistakes, invariably going to twist things sideways. And the problem is that that's generally our only source for God, is that human voice that might not be 100% infallible all the time. Might not be. Well, if you're hearing those things from the wrong place, and then you're looking because you want to believe, what else are you going to see, you know? How much of our God experience is really him? Maybe a lot, but is it 100% perfect, or are we self-fulfilling some prophecy in the religion realm? How much of what we see as strength and God coming through is a product of our own lack of confidence in ourselves? What if God is in us and he gives us the power to do the things that we need to do? And what if that's where the good comes from? You know, I've told my kids even, who will probably see this episode at some point, make your relationship with your God personal. Ask questions. Figure it out for yourself. I have what I would like you to know about my experience. Beyond that, it better be between you and God, because I know above all that I am as equally prone to fucking shit up as every other human being. I'm not saying I'm better than anybody. It is what it is. But if you are looking for God in a way that somebody told you you would find him and you need him, then you're probably going to see things that align with what you were told to expect. It's just kind of the way things work. That's what self-fulfilling prophecy is, and that's why it can be kind of dangerous. And if not all of our God experience is really God, then how much of our race experience is really racism? I've already asked that question, right? How much of our relationship struggles are really flaws in that other person, or a self-fulfilling prophecy that we have been just waiting to see come true looked for a glimmer of and then called it our truth. Ultimately, I want to ask you a single question, and I want to make a single point to conclude this episode and bring this thing back into real life. Off Topic is a living, breathing podcast again. Question is this glass half full or half empty? You got your answer. You know which one you are. But the truth is, it's both. And that's where your perception is only partially correct. Whether I fill it back up again or not has to do with one thing and one thing only. Not the answer to that first question. It has to do with whether or not I'm fucking thirsty. So look at your situations that way too, Earthlings. Don't let others, or even your own paradigms, tell you how thirsty you are.
Because what are your paradigms really worth? About 20 cents. Pause. Light bulb.
Decide for yourself, like I'm going to decide for myself here shortly. Go refill this glass and watch some fucking baseball.
Football. We meant football. Yeah, it was recorded a bit ago. So sue us.
I'm Matthew East. This has been fun. We've been off topic, and we're going to be off topic again real soon. We'll talk to you then. Enjoy your day, evening, whenever it is you're listening to this. Tell somebody else about it as well, and we'll see you next time. All right, Earthlings, thanks for being here. Thanks for sticking with me. And if you made it this far, why not take it a step further and give me a quick subscribe? I'm going to show you energy, diversity. We're going to make you smile and laugh and think in this rebirth of Off Topic. You can reach out if you've got ideas for the podcast at eastofftopic@gmail.com, or you can call and leave a message at 864-432-3379. Take a screenshot, write it down, replay it, whatever you got to do. But reach out. I'd love to hear from you. This is Matthew East signing off, and we'll see you next time.